What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. And if it's your first time here, just plain welcome. Um, it's 2A Tuesday. Got to talk about some Second Amendment stuff, but I'm going to talk about what happens when you don't have a Second Amendment. The Bill of Rights did not create any rights. These are rights that our founding fathers believed we had, and were particular rights they wanted to specifically protect. And the Second Amendment was one of the big ones. That was a huge one for them, and it was very important. It's the reason it's second, right after freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and freedom to assemble and things like that. Freedom of the press. Those were your first bastions against tyranny. The Second Amendment is kind of the insurance policy, right? This is the right we need to make sure we don't lose any of the other rights. First thing that any tyrannical government would want to do is take away your ability to fight back. After that, it starts whittling down the rest of your rights. And when you don't have that, like most of the world, what you end up with is a case where gun ownership is treated like a privilege. You don't have an inherent right in the government's view to own a firearm, either for hunting or for self-defense or anything else. A great example of this is Germany. They are, like a lot of places here, they have to get a permit to buy a gun. Now, in American countries, American states, if you have to go through a permit to purchase, you may have to go through some requirements, but they can't actually deny you in most cases, not without some cause. You don't have to justify wanting to buy a gun. And the revocation has to work in a few ways. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these states would love to make it impossible for you to buy a firearm, right? They would love to be able to look at your history, look at your social media and all these things. Nope, you're not the right sort. They just can't get away with that. They try, and then they get challenged, and then it gets overturned, and it creates issues. That kind of stuff is what led to the Bruen decision here a couple years ago, when New York wouldn't give concealed carry permits to just anybody. You had to meet specific requirements, and you had to have a good cause. Basically, what happened was the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot deny rights based on what you think is a good enough reason. People don't need to show a reason. In Germany, that's really not how it works. And I don't follow a lot of German politics, but there's a party there called the Alternative for Germany, or AFD. These Deutschland in German. I don't know what the A or F actually translate to, and I don't actually give a shit. I don't want to bother looking. But the AfD is a right-wing populist party there in Germany. It's considered a somewhat of a fringe party. It's been accused of basically being a new Nazi party, but I don't know how much stock I want to put into that, because people throw around the word Nazi all the time. There's some evidence that they haven't really helped their case with this quite a bit. Don't know how much of that was trolling or how much was something else. I don't really care. What I know is that if everybody doesn't have a right to own guns, everybody's right is suspect. It's a privilege. And two members of AFD and a former member of the AFD had their lawsuit tossed for after their gun license was revoked. And the reason their gun license was revoked was explicitly their membership in AFD. Now, this is a problem on the surface. You're sitting here, you're denying people guns based on their politics. This is not great. We don't deny neo-Nazis or, black nationalists or, any fringe group the right to keep and bear arms. It's not how it works. It's part of the reason I object to things like no fly, no buy. That and the fact that no fly, no buy doesn't actually involve due process. But the kicker on this with the AFD is that they may be one of the more fringe parties, possibly. I don't follow enough, German politics to know for certain. But I do know they're mainstream enough that they hold seats both in the federal parliament and the European Union parliament. They also have seats in most state parliaments. There's a couple where they have no seats. But the vast majority of German states have some representation of AFD. The federal parliament has representation of AFD. European Union Parliament has representation of AfD, right? This is a party that has won seats in their legislature. Their legislative body contains members of this party, and yet this is a party that's too extreme to, where just being a member of this party means you don't get a gun license. I'm not getting into the individual politics of AfD. Again, I don't follow German politics. I don't give a shit about German politics. What I do care about is the right to keep and bear arms. And that's treated like a privilege in Germany. Again, but people want this same thing here. If you asked an anti-gun person, hey, do you think we should vet people who want to buy guns? Should we, not just are they felons or do they have a history of domestic violence, but what if they're part of a hate group? Literally every one of them, I suspect, would tell you absolutely they need to be denied the right to keep and bear arms. They should not have guns. These are dangerous people. And I get where you're coming from. I'm not really crazy about extremist groups myself. The issue becomes how many people think of the Republican Party as hate groups. New York Attorney General Letitia James called the National Rifle Association a terrorist organization. It would seem to me that if she was given her druthers, she'd make sure none of us could own guns. Right now, permit to purchase licenses are shall issue, basically. And the Bruen decision probably means that's going to be the status quo. But a lot of people want to change that. They want to make it so it's not an automatic, that I have to go and justify every gun I want to purchase. They're trying to ban AR-15s all over the country. This is still something Democrats come right out and say they want at the federal level. They want to relegate us to things like shotguns and hunting rifles and handguns until they can take those out too. It'll be handguns probably next because that's what most crimes are committed with. Your hunting rifle won't actually be banned. It'll be called a sniper rifle first, and then talked about how it's a weapon of war because similar guns are on every battlefield in the country or in the world right now. Your shotguns will be nerfed down to where you can have only 3 rounds, 3 shells in the gun. Oh, and semi-auto, forget that. Can't have a semi-automatic shotgun. Pump action might even become a problem. Double barrel, you're good. If you've got a license and you're going hunting, maybe it'll be like some other places where you've got to have access to land to shoot on. You have to be a member of a gun club or have a couple of farmers that say, yeah, he can come and hunt on my land. That's not the way our rights are supposed to work. Now, I get Germany's not real big on rights anyways. This is a country that took 60 minutes to kick in someone's door over a frickin' meme. But you don't get to there with an armed population. That doesn't happen if the government knows they have to be afraid of the people. See, if it's just the ballot box, they can control that enough. Especially if they can control the soap box and the cartridge box. Remember the 3 boxes? They don't have to rig the election if they can rig the soap box so that you can't hear the other side. And if you can't fight back, it doesn't really matter what happens at the ballot box. That's what's going on in Germany. That's what happens when gun ownership is a privilege, not a right. That's what's going on there, and that's what people want to bring to the United States. And I don't know about you, but I'm not really interested in playing that game. All right, anyone who wants to do that can go fuck themselves. I'm going to be raw and brutal here. That's how I feel about it. Warmest regards, and fuck yourself. But most of us don't want that. Most Americans don't want to go to that extreme. That's why they're not trying to do it now. It will be incremental. And permit to purchase requirements, even for AR-15 and other assault weapons like what's going through in Washington right now, is all part of that effort to get there. And truth be told, we got to push back now. We've got to fight back now. I'm curious what you think. Do you think Germany did the right thing? Do you think that the right to keep and bear arms is sacrosanct and should never be infringed in any way? That's where I tend to lean, but I want to know what you think. Are you somewhere in between? Do me a favor. Go on down in the comments and tell me where you stand on the Second Amendment, where you stand on gun ownership. I want to hear from you. while you're down there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Every little bit helps the algorithm, including the comments. And, while you're down there, you can also find some links to my X profile, my Substack. There's a link to the Liberty Store, all kinds of Liberty-themed household home goods, shirts, mugs, wall art, all kinds of cool stuff. You get a little bit of a discount, and I get a little bit in return. So check that stuff out. And on that note, I'm going to start wrapping this up, and I will see you all in the next video.